Hey everyone, ready to dig deep. Today we're tackling well digger interviews, and we've got some awesome insights from RoleCatcher to help you absolutely ace it.
Yeah, these RoleCatcher guides, they're amazing. They actually give you real interview questions that companies are asking.
Right, not just like be yourself, which like, thanks, I
No,
nod.
exactly. It's like having a cheat sheet for the interview.
Love that.
Yeah.
So first up from their well digger interview guide is the classic. Can you tell us about your previous experience in well digging? Seems simple,
hmm
but there's got to be more to it, right?
Oh, definitely. It's about more than just listing your past jobs. It's about showing them you can do the work. So think about specific projects or challenges you faced and highlight the skills you learned that are relevant to this particular job.
Like, if I'm the interviewer, I'm thinking, okay, prove to me you can handle this day in and day out. What kind of achievements would you share?
Definitely things that align with what this company does. Like if they focus on sustainable drilling and you've got experience with that, lead with that. Or maybe you caught a safety issue early on that prevented a bigger problem. That shows you're proactive.
Proactive.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And speaking of safety, that leads us to question two. How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others while digging a well? Huge topic, obviously.
You said it, safety is absolutely paramount in this field. And they're not just checking if you know the rules, they want to know if you live them.
And the career guide.
hmm
Well Digger goes deep on this. It's a great resource.
Totally. It's not enough to say, I follow safety protocols, give them specifics, think about a protocol you're particularly careful about, and explain why it matters so much.
So like say you're really diligent about pre-drilling checks. Could you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So anyone can say they do pre-drilling checks, but I'd connect it to a real experience. Once I found a tiny fracture during a check that could have caused a major instability issue later, but because I caught it early, we adjusted the plan and avoided a potential hazard. That shows you're thinking ahead.
And that ties into what the career guide says about ground instability being a major hazard. They want someone who analyzes and mitigates risks, not someone who just checks boxes.
Exactly. And that leads us to those curveballs you're bound to face on the job. Question 3 asks, how do you handle unexpected challenges or setbacks during the well digging process?
Okay, so let's say your equipment malfunctions on site. What's your first move?
First, breathe. Don't panic. That's what they want to see. Now, the career guide mentions different types of equipment. So let's say it's the drilling rig acting up. I'd immediately isolate the problem. Then, based on my training, which is super important to mention, I'd either troubleshoot it myself or call in the right expert. It's about quick thinking and knowing when to ask for help.
Right. It's about showing them you can handle those unexpected situations. And the career guide also mentions unexpected soil conditions, like hitting bedrock when you weren't expecting it. How would you deal with that kind of setback?
Problem solving is key. First, I'd stop drilling immediately and consult the geological surveys. Always emphasize that you check those. Then I might call in a geologist for an on-site assessment. Safety first, always. Then adapt the plan.
Love it. It's all about showing them you can think on your feet and prioritize safety when things don't go as planned.
Exactly. And
Huh.
speaking of prioritizing, let's not forget the regulations and standards. Question 4 gets into that. How do you ensure the well meets all necessary regulations and standards?
This is where they're looking to see if you're just a digger or a true professional.
Right. You need to show them you understand the bigger picture. The career guide actually lists out key regulations and permits, so it's a good idea to review those. But beyond just knowing the rules, how would you explain your approach to ensuring compliance?
Yeah, how do you actually do it on a project?
I'd focus on 3 things: documentation, communication, and double checking. Meticulous record keeping is crucial from the very beginning. Then, clear communication with the relevant authorities, keeping them in the loop every step of the way. And finally, never hesitate to double check anything you're unsure about, even if it means a slight delay.
That's a great approach.
Mm.
It shows you're not just ticking boxes, but truly care about doing things by the book. Now let's get technical. Question 5 asks, can you describe your experience operating well digging equipment? Time to showcase those skills.
This is where the career guide, Well Digger, comes in handy again. It breaks down the different types of equipment commonly used, like drilling rigs, mud pumps, excavators. Think about the ones you're most proficient with and be ready to discuss them.
And don't just rattle them off.
Yeah,
Think about specific times you use that equipment to solve a problem or achieve a really great result.
exactly. Like maybe you had to adapt your drilling technique because of difficult soil conditions. That kind of story shows you can handle challenges.
And this is also your chance to highlight any specialized training you have. Did you take a course on operating a specific type of rig? Have you kept up with the latest drilling technology? All of that is important.
It shows them you're committed to your craft and you're always learning and growing.
Exactly. So we've covered the first 5 questions in detail, but don't go anywhere. We've got more great questions from the RoleCatcher Guide coming up. Plus, we'll dive into how their AI can help you craft those perfect answers. Stay tuned.
We're just getting started, folks. Stick with us. Welcome back. Ready for round 2. We tackled those initial questions. Now we're getting into the real meat of it. Project management, quality control, teamwork. The stuff that really sets you apart.
Yeah, those next questions from RoleCatcher's Guide really get to the heart of it. Question 6 asks, how do you ensure the well-digging project stays within budget and timeline constraints? I mean, every company cares about that, but what are they really looking for here?
It's less about never going over budget and more about your approach. They want to see those organizational skills, how you plan ahead, and that you're not afraid to speak up if there's an issue. Actually, the career guide specifically mentions using project management software, so if you've got experience with that, definitely bring it up.
So it's not just saying I'm good with deadlines, it's about showing them how you make sure things stay on track. Can you give us an example of a time you had to adjust a project plan because of an unexpected cost or delay?
Sure, once we had a supplier who was really late with some crucial casing materials. Instead of freaking out, I immediately looked at the timeline again and started searching for other suppliers, even if it meant spending a bit more. I presented the client with different options with clear pros and cons for each. Transparency is key here. It shows you're proactive, not reactive.
That's a great point. It shows you're thinking about the client's needs, not just digging a hole and hoping for the best. Which leads us to question 7, all about quality. How do you ensure the quality of the well is up to standards? What are your thoughts on this one?
Attention to detail is huge, but again, it's about showing them how you do it. The career guide emphasizes water quality testing. That's a great place to start. Don't just say you do it. Talk about a time you found an issue, like maybe some flight contamination and the steps you took to fix it. That shows you're not cutting corners.
It's one thing to say quality is important. It's another to show them you actually walk the walk with real-world examples. Okay, question 8 shifts gears to teamwork. How do you manage a team of well diggers effectively? This one can be tricky, especially if you haven't had a formal leadership position.
True, but leadership comes in many forms. Think about times you had to coordinate with others on a project, even if you weren't officially in charge. Did you delegate tasks, resolve a conflict? That's all leadership.
The career guide stresses the importance of communication on a well digging site. Can you give us an example of how you've used communication to improve team performance or maybe prevent a miscommunication?
Yeah, so on one project, we were working really closely with some other contractors. To avoid any confusion, I started doing daily check-ins, not just with my own team, but with their foreman as well. It meant things moved a little slower at first, but it actually prevented some major conflicts later on, saved us time and money in the long run.
That's a perfect example of how good communication can prevent problems before they even start. Now let's talk about pressure. Question 9 throws a tough one at you. Can you describe a time when you had to work under tight deadline constraints? This one's all about keeping your cool when things get stressful.
Absolutely, and everyone has a story like that. The key is picking one that highlights the skills they're looking for. Maybe a weather delay was putting the project behind, or there was a last-minute change in the specifications. Focus on how you stayed organized, prioritized tasks, and communicated clearly even when things felt chaotic.
I'd also add in problem solving. Did you have to come up with a creative solution to meet the deadline? Show them you can think outside the box when you need to.
Exactly. And finally, question 10 brings us back to staying current. How do you stay up to date on the latest well-digging technologies and techniques? This shows you're not standing still. You're always learning and improving.
Well, digging is a field that's constantly evolving, so they want to know you're keeping up. The career guide mentions industry publications and conferences. Any specific ones you'd recommend?
The Drilling Contractor magazine is a classic. It covers new tech case studies, tons of useful stuff. I also find webinars to be really helpful. Some equipment manufacturers do great ones on their latest gear. And don't underestimate networking, talking to other well diggers, learning from their experiences. That's invaluable.
Sometimes the best learning happens in those informal conversations. Okay, so we've covered 10 tough interview questions, but we're not done yet. Next, we'll explore how RoleCatcher's AI can take your answers to the next level. Plus, we'll dive into some career path insights from the Well Digger Career Guide to help you map out your future. Stick with us.
There's a whole lot more to explore. We're just scratching the surface.
Okay, so we've prepped for those tough Well Digger interview questions. But hold on, we've got one more tool to cover, and it's a real game changer, RoleCatcher's AI.
This isn't about replacing all that prep work. It's about taking it to the next level. You've got the knowledge, the career guide gave you the insights, but now you've got to make it fit perfectly with the job you want. That's where the AI comes in.
Yeah, and it does it in some pretty amazing ways. First, you upload your resume. Now, I thought my resume was pretty solid, but even I was surprised. RoleCatcher scans the job description and tells you what keywords or skills you're missing. It's like having a secret weapon.
It helps you get past that initial screening. Companies get flooded with applications, and a lot of them use AI to filter them out. So RoleCatcher basically helps you speak the AI's language.
Exactly. And it's not just for resumes. Remember all those practice answers we worked on? You can actually get AI feedback on those too. It analyzes your response, tells you if you're hitting the right points, and even suggests ways to improve it.
It's like having a mock interview with a robot that's read every well-digging manual ever written. And it's all tailored to that specific job you're applying for.
So use it along with everything we've talked about today. It's like the final touch. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk career paths. The career guide. Well Digger paints a really interesting picture here.
It does. A lot of people think well digging is just one job, but there's actually a lot of room for growth. You can specialize, go into management, even branch out into related fields.
The guide mentions some of those paths, like becoming a drilling supervisor. What kind of skills or experience would someone need to aim for that?
Besides the technical stuff, it's about leadership and problem solving. You're managing multiple cruise projects, budgets, safety, the whole 9 yards. Even experience leading a small team on a volunteer project shows initiative.
So always be thinking about how your current work can help you reach those goals, even if it's not directly related to well digging. The guide also talks about specialized roles, like geothermal drilling. That sounds pretty interesting.
It is. It's a growing field with a lot of technical challenges. But even if you don't go that route, knowing a bit about those related areas makes you a more well-rounded candidate. It shows you understand the bigger picture.
And that's where continuous learning comes in. The career guide lists a bunch of resources for staying up to date. Any favorites you'd recommend?
Definitely check out the International Association of Drilling Contractors. They offer certifications courses, a huge network. It's a great resource. And don't overlook local workshops. Sometimes the hands-on experience is the best way to learn.
So whether you're just starting out or looking to level up, remember that a well digger's career is about so much more than just digging holes. It's about problem-solving safety, continuous learning, and yeah, a bit of passion too.
Couldn't have said it better myself. With the right prep, the right tools, and that passion, you'll uncover some amazing opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. But before we go, I want to leave you with one last thought. We've talked Kellides and experienced all the practical stuff. But in your opinion, what personal qualities make a truly exceptional well digger? Something you can't learn from a textbook.
That's a good one. For me, it's that balance of caution and courage. You're working with some powerful forces, so you need respect for safety. But you also need the guts to make tough decisions when things get challenging. It's a unique combination.
I love that. Cautious courage. And hey, if you're prepping for a well digger interview, you probably already have a good amount of that. So go in there confident, prepared, and show them what you're made of. We're all rooting for you.
Best of luck. And remember, the deepest wells often hold the most valuable treasures.
That's a great way to put it. And that's a wrap on this deep dive into well digger interviews. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with your job search.